Today, I want to talk about research studies and some of the pitfalls that come along with these things, especially when it comes to nutrition and exercise. Well, I've been getting into conversations about the strengths of research. Someone was commenting I needed to have research to back up my claims, and then other people were commenting about the pitfalls of research and how it can be so biased and things. And we want to get rid of our bias, and that's why we do a lot of these research studies, is so that we can find out, is it just people's anecdotes? Is it just people's opinion? Is it just the fit philosopher's opinion and he's right, so obviously that's true? No. We have to make sure that these things work across different demographics and in different situations. But that's what I wanted to get to, is research studies are very hard to do correctly. And if you actually read the research itself, you'll start to find how difficult some of this stuff is. Even in a meta-analysis, we can have biases and we can screw things up by concluding certain things and not really looking for everything. So I'm going to hopefully try to explain some of those pitfalls as of what I've learned. Again, this is my opinion on things, but I'm not saying that research studies are bad. I think we need to do them, but there is now a dependency on them that I think is dangerous. And so beware of research studies. And so we're going to talk about that bias. Okay, well, who funded the study? So I've seen studies on nutrition funded by Coca-Cola. Do you really think that they're going to come out with definitive evidence that high fructose corn syrup or sugar or whatever else chemical that they put in their product is going to be negative? Every article that I see written, and after the conclusions written about some article that it has to do with sugar or this or that, is always, these results are inconclusive. They can't be completely founded yet. There still needs to be more research done. Yes, there could always be more research. But if you look back, a lot of companies and corporations that understand there's growing research on, let's just say, the inflammatory effects of sugar, of the cascade of effects that happens in your liver and inflammation in the body when you intake these massive amounts of high fructose corn syrup. Those companies that fund these studies are trying to muddy the waters. So you have to look at, hey, just because a study's done and they got some results and it was done at Stanford, it doesn't mean that it was done in the best light. They want to have more and more research come out that says these things are inconclusive. Because I could fund a study tomorrow and that says that avocados, I swear I've seen this before. I should actually try to find this, but I've seen articles and I've seen research study that goes along with it that goes, avocados are the healthiest food that you can eat. And then I saw another one that said avocados are the unhealthiest food that you can eat and you should stop eating them today or you're going to die. You can find both because it really depends on how you conduct the research and what you're looking for. So again, with nutrition, because it's such a broad thing and it's so hard to control for it, how do I know that those people that were even eating avocados weren't doing all of these other healthy activities that go along with it? Is it really the avocado? Then on the other end, all the people that had these negative effects, is it really the avocado, or is it all these other things that they're doing in their life? So it's hard to do nutrition. That's one of the reasons why you're never going to find out that vegan's the best diet, carnivore's the best diet. That's why you can have two of the opposite. All plants, no plants. No meat, all meat. And they both have people that have different results, and they get great results. Some people get fantastic results with each of them. So which one's better? Is a study going to tell that to you? No, there's so many different factors individually that you need to take into consideration. And this is kind of the theme of it is if you just take for the research for what it is, and you don't consider you or the situation that you're in, you're going to miss some of these big points. And you're just going to go along with research that might take you further away from your goal instead of actually getting you closer. So you need to have a level of common sense that you approach things. Someone was commenting about, I was trying to explain to them that physics, there's a simple principle of physics that's force equals mass times acceleration. And that if you accelerate more, if you have more speed, you're going to have more force, which is going to create more risk of damage. And I made an example. What's more dangerous, walking or running? Running, because it's faster. Speed. What's more dangerous, a car accident at 20 miles an hour or a car accident at 80 miles an hour? At 80 miles an hour, it's more speed. So you take all other factors in consideration. More speed equals more danger, equals more risk, equals more damage in a car accident. And he's like, you need more research to back that up. You could have research to back that up, but I just have the principle of physics so the common sense of force equals mass times acceleration that's there in physics that we can understand. If we start to have to overcomplicate things by having a research study about it, we're going to waste a lot of time. And I might be able to find some instances where people came out of an 80-mile-an-hour car crash that was unscathed. Do you really think that that's going to be a way to think about car accidents, that's safe? We should all drive 80 at all times because because of two examples. You see what I'm saying? So we can get lost in a cherry-picked research study, even if it has good intentions. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's old saying is there, even if it has good intentions, because we're not really taking in the whole picture or we're not using common sense. And a lot of people who interpret these research studies don't realize that maybe there was data that was cherry-picked. Maybe they were trying to say one thing because they had an expectation for something. And that's the individual bias. And I'll give you an example of that. Well, when I was in college, we had to do a little mock study. It wasn't something that was going to get published. It was just a experiment for ourselves for a project. And it was a group project and we did different things. So one of the test subjects happened to be me. Didn't fit the curve, okay? I was an outlier. It didn't fit in with whatever else we wanted to do. And it was because of me. It was because of my own thing. It had nothing to do with our training. It was a max VO2 test. And I got worse results on the second round versus good results. And it was because I had other issues outside of that. I'll get into that. You talk about my addictions. I had some issues going on at that time. And so I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't doing this. And so I was not going to perform. No matter what we did in before and after, I wasn't going to perform better. And everyone else performed better except for me. So what did we do in the research? We just flipped my numbers. So instead of on the one date that was prior, we put that as the post. So we just flipped the data because we could. Now, it made it easier for us to explain our data and have a good research example and get an A on the assignment. But if you don't think that stuff's happening in research labs at the highest level, then you don't understand human beings and our own human bias. Now, we would hope that stuff doesn't happen, and it probably doesn't happen as often as you might think. But like I said, if Coca-Cola is funding a study and I've got all this data pointing that in one direction, and I have some outlier out there that can help my cause, I'm going to just highlight. I don't even need to get rid of the data, or I don't need to get rid of the bad data. I can just highlight the fact that there was one outlier that didn't have the result that they were expecting. Let's just say someone didn't have these negative effects because they drank 12 Cokes a day. Well, you're going to have some genetic outliers. You're going to have some things that don't fit the curve. But if then I highlight that in my research, in my conclusions, when someone then reads and interprets the study, if they don't have a sharp eye, if they don't know how to interpret data points, they're going to miss that. And that's what I see a lot of people that relay information about data, about research studies, is they make a YouTube video on it. They talk about this stuff, and then they don't see that they were being misled because there was an ulterior motive, or they wanted their result to get through. Everyone has bias. I have an expectation that I start out. I have to have an hypothesis when I start something. And if I really want that to come true, my research is going to be kind of colored with that. So we want to look out for that. And you can get good at reading research studies and see through a lot of that. Another problem with research studies is that people don't understand is I've seen some really popular research studies that have been shared and recommended. And the study was done with like 12 people. I'm not kidding. We're like literally this groundbreaking thing that everyone is doing now, especially fitness exercise trends. The studies are very minimal. They're not taken and redone and done a bunch of times and looked at. They're done one time with a super small amount of people. And a lot of times they're done with pro athletes or very good athletes. So it's not indicative of the rest of the culture. That's another thing that you have to look at. Trained versus untrained people. That's one of the things that they always say. Well, we did this with trained people and untrained. Well, what are the parameters of untrained people? If you don't look deeper and deeper and find out what's really going on, the research doesn't really mean much. And that's why I really want to use this as an opportunity to say, look, use that as guideposts. Use research as guideposts, but don't use them as gospel. Don't think that that's the truth, because we've lost sight of basic physiological principles because we've had some research studies come up recently that have said certain things. Even if there's this huge amount of research behind it that says this way is better, all right? Let's just say, talking about strength training in a certain way. And then now we've got all this functional training and new ways of doing things. Yeah, we might find some positive results. Like I said, I can find you positive results on anything. If I do a research study a certain way and I get the right test subjects, I could have anything be positive. I could have anything be negative. What I'm trying to say is instead of just relying on studies, rely on studies plus common sense, plus your own anecdotal research, your own experience. Because at the end of the day, if I read research and it says I need to work a body part 2 times a week, this is me, right? This is what I learned in college. This is what I learned through research studies. I needed to hit a body part 2 times a week. And I do that and I get results at, let's just say 70% of my max. And then I stop that and I do 1 body part per week, okay? I don't hit it twice a week. I only hit it once a week. And I get 85% results. So I go from 70 to 85. I don't care if it's all the research in the world that's going against what you're doing. If you're getting results, get your results and go with it. And so instead of us having to have all this research backed by people that might have ulterior motives, again, a lot of times they don't. I'm not saying that that's the case. But why not take the experience and the results that you're actually getting in real life and run with that? And then start to then analyze and understand why you're getting that. And I think that if we rely on research, we're not going to see some of the stuff that's happening right in front of our faces. And I can speak on this because I was one of those people. Like I said, I used to do everything by the book. If it wasn't backed by research, I couldn't. But here's the other thing, right? All the stuff that I do is backed by physiology and backed by research. But again, I could find you other research studies that might contradict what I'm talking about. And it's just again, a reliance on these things that if you just open your eyes and just use some common sense and just pay attention, you might find out a lot more than having to rely on not only research studies, but research studies interpreted by someone else. I think that is really my main point is we tend to rely on it too much. I made all my points. I've got some notes here talking about all that stuff, the data. Yeah, you can scrub data from it. I mean, you can highlight data points. You can get rid of outliers. You can get rid of those outliers and all the way. And then the study, the averages are different. So that's another thing. What do they, in the conclusions, how do they go about things? Is it an average, or are you looking at the mean? You're looking at, not the mean, that's the average. Or are you looking at the median, the most expected point? Or are you trying to put your point across by looking and saying, oh, look at the average, when it's really just because of these outliers that are screwing up that average, when in reality it's not really there. So there's lots of ways of interpreting things. I took statistics in high school and it was something that was really eye-opening because you could fudge numbers and you can manipulate things, and that's what people do, and not necessarily in a manipulating way. It's just the way that we look at things and we go, oh, okay, well, we have to explain it somehow. So if you're not really diligent about things, studies might not be all what they're cracked out to be. We still need to do them. I'm someone that I love the idea of studies. If I had my ideal world, I'd be doing studies all the time. I want to do studies on sleep. I want to do studies on exercise. I want to do studies on nutrition. I want to do studies on meditation. I want to do tons of different studies. So I'm not sitting here saying that these things are bad. I'm saying the way that we interpret them, the way that we rely on them, that's not the good thing. And if I was going to do studies, I'd have my own bias as well. So especially, again, a lot of this is coming down to nutrition and exercise. It's really hard to do studies in a really controlled way. You have so many different variables, especially with diet and lifestyle, training, recovery. How are these people recovering? That's another thing. What if these people that were recovering, these people that were doing an exercise study, they were the people that got the results. It was more about recovery stuff that they weren't even talking about and they didn't really discuss. It was just offhand, and the people didn't think it was important. And then the other people that didn't get results weren't doing those things. Was it the training or was it the recovery? So again, there's lots of different things that go on that make it hard to say definitively this is how it is. And I know that I was accused of that. Well, you can't just use physics as an example. Well, there's laws of physics that have gone through batteries of tests and research and hypotheses, and everyone came out saying the same thing. And that's what these physiology textbooks are based off of. The physics textbooks are based off of. Yes, we can do new research and we can try different things, but let's not forget that we have basic principles of physiology and physics that we want to use to our advantage to get the most results that we can. And that's what I'm trying to do through some of my stuff, talking about the training methods that I do. Again, it's just what I do. You can take it or leave it, but I've come to these conclusions because I've tried all this other stuff, because I've read not all the research, I've read a lot of research, and I've followed different people, and I got caught in those traps, and I wasn't getting maximal results because I was stuck in believing other people instead of seeing what was actually happening right in front of me. So I try to appeal to you and say, hey, look at what's actually creating those results. Use things that you jive with, the things that fit into your lifestyle, the things that you really enjoy doing and that you're going to come back to. Use that as a guidepost, but don't make it your gospel. Be open to other ideas. I'm trying to be more open to other ideas. And that's why I come up with these things and I talk about them, because I want to share my opinion on things. And it's going to rub people the wrong way, and I get that. But I'm trying to, again, show a different perspective so that people can be a little bit more open as well. So that's all we got for today. Be careful with research studies. You never know how they're conducted. You never know what data they might have gotten rid of or what they might be highlighting. And then again, be careful of people that are interpreting that data for you. Especially if you don't know how to read a research study, you're apt to let someone else explain it to you, and they might not have the best intentions, or they might not be reading the research right, or the research study itself could be flawed and they're interpreting bad data and they don't even know it. So what's really working? See the results in everyday life. All right. And it takes time. All this stuff takes time. Nutrition, exercise, all that stuff takes time, and it takes trial and error. I've had my own trial and error, and I try to share that perspective with you so that you don't have to go through that. And that's all I'm trying to do on this channel. So I hope you understand that. Again, I could be lying, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to share my perspective and my truths that I've seen. All right, and I'm speaking the truth when I say these things, and I hope you do believe that. But that's all we got for today, and I'll see you next time.